All right, Raider Nation. Raider D here with Raider D Podcast, and I have my very special guest, Raider Nation Hotspot, with me today, live in studio in the beautiful Las Vegas, as we are getting ready to go to the open practice on the 20th. Hopefully, you guys will be there and you'll see us because we'll be there and we're giving away a bunch of prizes. So come and join us just in a few days. But until then, we're going to talk about some craziness that happened as we were driving out here, going through a crazy flash flood in St. George. Couldn't see in front of it. Thought we were going to get in a wreck. Thought we were going to drown. Didn't really know what was going on. And then at the same time, I get crazy news that I've been wrong for the past 4 months. And Gardner Minshew is now going to be QB1. Raider Nation Hotspot, welcome to the show, brother. Yeah. We're going to be talking about some Minshew mania and AOC drama. Absolutely. What is happening, man?
Thanks for having me. Welcome to Vegas.
Yeah.
I guess this is how you arrive with a little bit of...
It's hot.
It is hot.
God, we got out of the truck under the parking lot in the shade, and I was like, oh, I remember this heat. It's been a while since I've been out here.
Yeah, it reminds you pretty quickly.
Yeah.
It'll take you a few days to get adjusted, but it's hot. Yeah, it's going to be. Tonight's pretty good. And, you stay in the AC, so. Yeah,
stay in the AC and go out at nighttime. Like, we just came back from a restaurant called Maza, Turkish restaurant here in Las Vegas, which was absolutely phenomenal. You guys got to go and check it out if you come on down here. They're not paying me to say that. They are just that darn good. In fact, my wife is connoisseur of baklava, and she said that was the best baklava she has had in her entire life. So you guys got to come and check that out. Gardner Minshew.
Yes. Minshew magic, baby.
The mustache man, the used car salesman, the van life guy, is QB1 of the Las Vegas Raiders for the 2024 NFL season. I'm shocked. I had to eat crow. I had to make a I was wrong video today, which, I do. I preface this since I started this channel by saying I'm wrong at least 2 times a day. That way, if I do make a huge blunder like this, it's not so bad.
It's one of your two.
Yeah, I've prepared myself.
Yeah, it's fair.
So
you'll learn to listen to me next time, guys.
Yeah. How did you take the news, and what are your thoughts? I know you have a theory as to why Gardner Minshew was named QB1, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Yeah, sure. But first, what was your initial thoughts when you heard the press conference come out?
I was kind of a neutral player here in this turf war that seems to have risen up between AOC and Gardner Minshew. I understand the positive aspects of having a young quarterback like AOC take the starting job, and it's something that I think is probably a better long-term solution or outcome for the Raiders, right? But I also knew that they were pretty even coming in, and that it could easily be Gardner Minshew as starting, and I'm okay with that. I think this doesn't mean it's the total end for AOC. He's got time now to develop and learn some more. I think there's some things he needs to work on, things that Gardner needs to work on also. But I'm gonna trust the head coach that he's comfortable with this quarterback for a good reason. And we'll talk about it more later.
I mean, when we looked at the last preseason game, Gardner Minshew had a pretty terrible outing. And I know that everybody wants to point to the fact that Aiden O'Connell threw a pick six, which he did. That was terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible decision. It was a panic move, panic throw, and it ended up in a negative play and may have very well cost him a starting job. But Gardner Minshew had one that should have been a pick six.
Yeah.
I mean, it was right in the dude's hands. The defender of the Cowboys just completely dropped a pick six. And then he had another one that should have been an interception. Probably not a pick six, but one that was broken up. He was trying to throw a panic ball to Michael Mayer on the sideline. And that one was way too covered. It was a dangerous ball. Dangerous for Michael Mayer, but it was also could have been an interception, and the guy dropped it as well. So, I mean, Gardner could have had 2 interceptions. He had a quarterback rating of 60, and Aiden O'Connell had a quarterback rating of, I believe it was 72 or 74. If it's not for that interception, do you think the decision would have been different. If he would have thrown, instead of a pick six, he would have drove down and got another touchdown. Do you think we're talking about AOC as the starter today? Or do you think that this decision was already made maybe days or weeks ago?
No, I don't think it was a predetermined thing. I think that you can't kind of, divorce the interception from the rest of his play. I think it actually I don't think it's so much the interception as to the type and the fact that he played out of character in that moment, which could lead you to believe some things about his readiness under intense pressure, right? I haven't really seen him do that too much on tape, where he just kind of panic balls it, right? That out of character kind of play concerns me, especially in this situation with so much pressure. So maybe he just needs a little bit more time, because you want a player to play up to his strengths, right? Obviously, people make mistakes and things like that. But if what makes you good is, your poise and you're being calm and kind of collected, and then we're not getting the other side, right? Then that needs to be your strength. You can't then also be the person that sometimes just completely panics, right? Because then what are we relying on, right?
Yeah.
So I think for him, it was different in this situation, right? If he just didn't see the guy, right, or something like that, or was trying to force it in because he thought he had the arm strength to do it, that's a different why, and I think it matters.
Yeah, because when I reviewed the play, it did look to me like he was getting pressure coming from that same side, and he tried to hurry up and do a check down pass.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if he didn't even, I don't think he even seen the defender there. I think it was just an instant reaction of pressure, check down, and he just instantly threw it. And because there's been some interceptions in practice down in LA, there's been some interceptions in practice here in Vegas, and then the big pick six during the game. I think that all of those kind of culminated to one of the pet peeves that I've heard Antonio say in regards to taking care of the ball. He doesn't want to see mistakes, and there's been far too many of them at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But if we look at it statistically, okay, if we win 9 games this year, we're not making the playoffs.
Right.
Gardner Minshew, they can give him Pro Bowl after year after year after year, but if we're not making the playoffs, what's the point?
Yeah.
Is this a Tom Telesco move or a Luke Getsy insistence, or is this really Antonio Pierce's choice? Because I've got to scratch my head. I still can't figure it out, because all of the praise coming from Antonio Pierce was towards AOC and all the criticism was towards Minshew. And then it's just the night before he makes the announcement, he goes and makes a statement saying, I'll get together with Telesco and Luke and we'll figure it out. And I've never heard a coach say that I'm going to talk to the GM about who I'm going to put on the field, because that's not the GM's job. The GM is a manager of a whole bunch of analytics, grabbing players, contracts, all of that stuff. Why are you consulting a guy who's no coaching experience whatsoever, ever?
Right.
He's always been in management situations.
Yeah.
So why are you doing that? And to me, when it came back to being Gardner Minshew is the guy, I felt like maybe AP caved to some pressure, because it seemed like Luke Getsy liked one guy, Antonio liked another guy, and then Tom Telesco's like the godfather above that's saying, I signed Minshew, so go with Minshew and Antonio Pierce maybe caved into the pressure or something. Am I off in there? Do I need to get my tinfoil hat out with that theory?
I think that it's probably not a stretch to say that a coach would consult with the roster constructor when making a huge roster decision. It could be in order to ask questions and get reflection on what his initial scouting reports were on these players. Because then you can see if there's been a difference between what was scouted and what we're seeing now, right? So that could be just a reference point. He's also someone who's been and seen a lot of different transactions, and AP is a new head coach. So leaning on people around you who have more experience is probably the right way to go. I would doubt that Getsy would be strong on the guy who doesn't run the plays and bails the pocket side of the equation. So I think this is probably him wanting to make sure he can get the blessing of Getsy. Like Getsy's not just going to be like, what are you doing to me right now, right? And that he feels like he can go forward and have a successful offense with Minshew. Because I think AP is the kind of person that makes a decision and then asks for forgiveness, not permission.
Yeah.
So, I think he's going there saying, look, I know if you're a GM, you want AOC to start. That's better for your team development, right? The money they gave to Minshew is really, backup. You can start if you have to start. This isn't disrespectful kind of money,
Yeah.
But it's not, we're hanging our hat on you kind of thing, right? It's a 2-year contract with an option. If you're the GM, you wanted AOC to win this job. I think the head coach wanted him to win the job. That's why he was talking the way he was talking. Raider Nation, most of us probably wanted him to win this job, but he didn't go take it. And so that's how it works.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But you nothing's handed to you, right? And, as much as we all maybe wanted it to happen, the results were not something where you can say, okay, this guy is definitely going to be the quarterback of the future and we don't need to worry about anything else. And if that's not the case, then, put a guy in that you know where you're getting from, right? And we probably need to look at another quarterback, right? Next year, there'll be other options. He'll also have another chance, but he's probably going to be competing against a pick.
Do you think that by going with Gardner Minshew instead of Aiden O'Connell, that they then have an out if Gardner doesn't get us into the playoffs and do it convincingly? Not that because we get into the playoffs because our defense is that good, which right now there's some questions about the run defense. Secondary still looks pretty awesome other than Jack Jones giving up a touchdown, but I mean that's gonna happen. Jack Jones is a ball hawk. He is not a shutdown corner. Those are two different types of cornerbacks.
Yeah. Namdi was shut down.
Yeah, he's not Namdi Osmar, right? He is, I'm gonna ball hawk and I'm gonna steal the ball from you. You might score a touchdown on me here and there, but I'm gonna score one too.
Yeah.
And so we give leeway to him because we know that he can score the other way. But the run defense is a little bit questionable. If Gardner Minshew is not able to do it himself, if he's not putting up some real Pro Bowl numbers, I'm not talking about getting in there because he's a fill-in for Patrick Mahomes Pro Bowl. I'm talking about he's like legit, maybe even MVP candidate type of quarterback, and we sneak into the playoffs in a wild card because some other team wasn't able to. Not that situation. The situation, Gardner Minshew gets us there.
Yeah.
Or he doesn't.
Yeah.
If he doesn't, is that then a reason for the Raiders to go and try and grab somebody like Kirk Cousins from Atlanta, Dak Prescott from the Cowboys? I mean, bring Tom Brady out of retirement with a walker or wheelchair.
Gosh.
I mean, what do we do at that point? Because if we win 9 games, we're middle of the pack in the draft.
Right.
So we're back to square one of being too far back to get a guy.
Yeah.
And then if we do want to get a guy, we've got to sell the entire farm to get him. And then what if he turns into a Trey Lance?
Exactly.
And now we're just set back for 10 years. I mean, I could see the entire team just imploding at that point. Devontae wanting to be traded, Max wanting to be traded.
Armageddon.
Yeah. I mean, it could just be a complete disaster. So that's why I had such a hard time of understanding it, because look, by week 4, if Aiden O'Connell is not it, and we're 1-3, 2-2, or he's just not looking good, then you put Gardner in. That I would understand, because that's why Gardner's here. But to start with Gardner is mind-boggling to me, because I don't see how do we get to a Super Bowl with a Gardner Minshew.
Yeah. So it tells me some things. I always try to remember that we're not seeing reality in these preseason games fully, because people are running vanilla defense, right? Vanilla offenses. So we're seeing like little like dream-like snippets of what could one day be like how these people actually play. You kind of have to make inferences and stuff, right? I'm going to look at our D-line and linebackers and go, I don't think we actually have a run game problem. I think it's that we're playing vanilla defense in the preseason. And so that's one of the things when you're not running line stunts and you're not like even trying to pursue, you know, the different line calls and stuff like that. You're just kind of just running whatever you want to run in order to see stuff. People who typically run the ball. Also, it's the preseason, so I'm not going 100%, right? You know, I'm not going to hurt myself and stick my head somewhere it's not supposed to be in a run game. So there's some of that. I think that's not going to be a long-term issue. I think why we have Minshew starting is because the coaches see this defense in practice. They know what they have, and they don't want to waste an opportunity or disrespect, you know, Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins, Malcolm Koonce, Robert Spillane, Jack Jones, Nate Hobbs, Ja'Cory Bennett. This team has a lot of players on defense that will make plays. And I think when the regular season starts, we'll start to understand that this is, you know, good teams don't shout in the preseason, they shout in the postseason, right? So like they're gonna keep running into form. I think this is gonna be very good defense. I think AP knows that, and so he wants to make sure that the offense just doesn't lose the games, because I think that's where we're at. Our special teams is already one of the best in the league, right? Because our kicker and punter are exceptional. We have really good coverage players. DJ Turner is amazing. He's turned into a receiver. That's another thing that's happened, right? But he's always been a good special teams player. So 2 out of 3 phases of the game, you can win a lot of games because you have a great defense and special teams, and you've got Zamir White, who looks quick and strong. And I feel like we have some pretty good depth that we can continue to kind of grind those runs out, control the clock. So, you know, Minshew has enough experience and kind of moxie to make plays, you know, on third downs, end of games. If you remember when Rich Gannon came over, the way that he won the team over, the way that he really made a difference for us is that he was able to move the chains with his legs when it was necessary. And it really lifted the team's ability offensively. No more 3 and outs over and over again. Our defense got better because of that. It was like this, butterfly effect, right? So that kind of ability to do that stuff, it lifts the team up too. When a quarterback scrambles for a first down, it's huge, right?
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter right now in the preseason, but in a real game, like each first down is pivotal, right? And so that can really kind of inspire your teammates also, right? We have a formula, right? You know, he's a defensive coach. He's a middle linebacker. He played on a team that won a Super Bowl with a similar formula, right? Eli Manning didn't play outstanding. He made plays when a quarterback has to make plays. third down, into the half, into the game. And so if you can do that and you can not make mistakes and you've got a great defense, special teams, you've got a chance every time. And with this team's kind of like attitude, right, we kind of have a special thing going, right? This quarterback controversy has distracted away from the fact that this locker room was together, right? I think the length of this also kind of detracted from both the quarterbacks' play. They were not getting all the snaps. They're stressed out and worried about who's on my side and who's not, and it started to show, right? It was time to make a decision.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Like I had said before, no matter who the quarterback is going to be, a decision simply needed to be made after this game because you don't want to prolong this any further past this point. I mean, it's already prolonged probably too far as it is.
Yeah, you really don't want to be here.
Yeah, your quarterback one really needs an entire offseason of being quarterback one.
Be nice, yeah.
Minshew didn't get that. AOC didn't get that. Minshew's the guy now. So we hope that, moving forward, I hope he becomes a Rich Gannon, and I hope he becomes, does something Rich Gannon wasn't able to do, and that's win the Super Bowl. And I know there's a whole lot of reasons why we did not win that Super Bowl. Yeah. Not all on Rich Gannon, but I would love to see it. Like I said in my video earlier today, I'm tired of seeing the Raiders lose.
Yeah.
And I'm at this point, I'm just wondering, my goodness, would it have just been better if we kept Derek Carr, got rid of McDaniels, had Coach AP in this defense? Well, I mean, we could be Super Bowl contenders all of a sudden. Because then I think Derek Carr, statistically, Derek Carr is a better quarterback than Gardner Minshew.
Oh yeah, definitely. He's a better quarterback than Gardner Minshew. Derek Carr was asked to do more than what we would ask Gardner Minshew to do. Like if you take a quarterback who's being asked to play up to, what was once the number one contract in the league, right? Like he was thought of as an MVP candidate, right? So a lot was put on his shoulders, a lot was expected, right? If you take somebody with those expectations and say, we just need you to manage the game and make a play here and there, well, it's a different thing, man. Like all of a sudden, old Peyton Manning is great because, all you're asking him to do is manage the game and make a play here and there. But it's different when you're asking Derek Carr to do what he was asked to do, right? I think the way he left was disrespectful. And so it's unfortunate, right?
Well, the good thing is, the Saints fan hate him, and so he may be available next year.
No,
wouldn't that be something?
Don't even start.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Oh my God.
I'm not gonna say devil's advocate, but advocate for the other side here is that Derek Carr did say how great it would be to play for a guy like Antonio Pierce.
I'm sure he would love it.
He did throw that out there.
Speaking of not going down the mediocrity whirlpool, we'll call it.
I just figure I'd stir up a little fire with the audience.
Same thing for me and Dak Prescott or Kirk Cousins. You asked about this earlier. The Raiders need to draft a quarterback high.
But how? If we keep finishing 9-8, 8-9, middle of the pack, how do we get up there and get a quarterback that is going to be that next guy when we know quarterbacks drafted in the first round, only 30 of them actually pan out. 30% only pan out.
Yeah.
That means 70% of the other guys who were drafted in the first round are backup quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah. I think we're not in a place...
or is that why we made Gardner Minshew? Because we're going to go 1-16 this year.
Okay. So...
No. And then hold on, conspiracy theories, guys.
Oh, gosh.
Listen to this.
Here he goes.
I got it for you. Antonio Pierce said the night before he made the announcement, I got to talk to Tom Telesco. And then that way he can say at the end of the season, well, Tom Telesco's the one who brought him in. Tom Telesco wanted me to start him. Now we got the first overall draft pick. We're cutting Gardner Minshew and we're drafting... Who would we draft if we had the number one? That's a great question.
Carson Beck.
Carson Beck. Not Shador?
No.
Not a fan of his?
I'm not saying I'm not a fan. I'm saying I am more of a fan of Carson Beck.
Why? Now you got me intrigued.
I think that I can't I'm not going to make statements because I haven't had a chance to see them, play this year. Quarterbacks look a lot different in their final year of eligibility. I get that.
That is true because nobody was talking about Jaden Daniels 2 years ago.
But from what I've seen so far, Shador has some things to clean up with how he is going to read progressions. He can be a little mistake prone, a little excitable, right? He still kind of feels young. Carson Beck feels kind of more settled, more intrinsically confident. He's like an alpha person. He just has that kind of command, right? Which is important. Like, he's the leader of the team. He's physically gifted, and I think has a naturally more accurate arm than Shador. Now, Shador is probably more, has more mobility, that sort of thing. But like, Carson Beck isn't stiff, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like it's a huge difference. I just feel like playing in that conference, like the SEC, it's easier to judge him against these players who are going to all be playing on Sunday. And he looks like he's going to be one of those guys that looks like he belongs in a different class while playing in the SEC. Brock Bowers was one of those guys. Zamir White was one of those guys. And we'll start to see that this year too, I think.
So we mentioned in the beginning of this podcast that you had a theory as to why Gardner Minshew is QB1 and not AOC, even though Gardner didn't beat AOC as far as play goes.
Mm-hmm.
What's that theory and the reason behind it?
Yeah. So back at the end of last season, Antonio Pierce made a comment about what he was concerned about with AOC. And that was like him being a verbal leader who would take the reins and take control. We heard him say again recently that he needed his quarterback who was going to win the job, to take the reins and take control. That repetitive use of language is there for a reason, right?
Yeah.
I was at the game. You can see who is leading the team out of the tunnel, who's rallying them, right? Who's walking up and down the sideline, talking to the offensive linemen, talking to the receivers, and who is not, right?
So Gardner is the vocal guy. He's the rah-rah guy, the cheerleader guy on the sideline for the defense and the offense. AOC is the church house mouse, sitting quiet by himself, sitting on the bench, doing what nerds do, studying plays and stuff, which you want your quarterback to be studying. But at the same time, you're saying that Antonio Pierce believes that Gardner Minshew is going to rally the team and take the team on his shoulders when it counts, and he didn't see that in AOC.
Mm-hmm.
And because AOC wasn't able to establish that, even though there were some reports that AOC was starting to become more vocal, it's just a night and day difference. It's really a personality difference. Like me, I'm a very outgoing person. I'm very boisterous, right? I have no problem talking to people. Even though I don't like a lot of people, some people just really annoy me. But I like a lot of other people too. So it's kind of a weird thing.
Everybody. You guys are
I'm just one of those kinds of guys. But AOC is not that personality. And you're saying that was the key factor, because the two of them, when it came to play, I mean, neither one of them won the job.
No, it's pretty even.
Pretty even. Both had good days, both had bad days. It's kind of a wash. Personality won in the end. That's the theory.
I think, yeah, when he says experience, right? He said experience when they asked him, right? What do you get from being an experienced quarterback, right? You're settled. You are sure. You have purpose. You know what needs to be done, and people then can follow you, right?
Well, one of the great things about living the van life is you have very little to lose, and therefore you're open to the world. And that's what Gardner Minshew is. He's into the van life. And look, I'm telling you, man,
It's working for him.
it works for him because if you look at YouTube on any of these van life YouTubers, they're very open personalities.
Hey,
They've got nothing to lose because what are you going to take from them? They live in a van.
it's a van already.
You know what I'm saying? But he did, in his defense, he did say he has a house somewhere.
It does now, yes.
He's never said where the house is. I mean, for all we know, it could be a houseboat on a beach. But technically, he said he has a house.
Well, whatever he calls his home, I'm sure is comfortable for him. He is a different dude, for sure. But players respond to him. Like, he's able to get along with everybody. He did this at WSU when he came in. It was a difficult situation for the team. They lost their quarterback unexpectedly. It was a tragic kind of thing. He comes in and kind of uplifts the whole team. They all rally behind him, and this was done within like a week or two. So he just kind of has that about him. And I think you combine, that kind of leadership skill and the question about whether AOC is going to grab that or not, right? And if he's not ready, then what's better than to just give him some time, right?
Yeah.
We talked.
He is on a rookie contract.
Yeah, he's on a rookie contract.
It's only his second year. We got him
second
for 3
season.
full seasons.
Exactly. He can just kind of learn this sort of like, stagecraft or whatever that Minshew's developed or is really kind of key, good at and flourishes when given the opportunity to kind of be in this leadership position. He can watch that, right? He can take notes. He can learn from it. He can develop. He can get better, right? Minshew has a shortened amount of time. We were talking about the quarterback, a short amount of time before they get. Well, he's a veteran. He's experienced. Yeah. He's going to be able to get in there and play better than someone who's been restricted with reps and then is trying to catch up, who was a rookie last year. And this is his, first time really going through this process in earnest, right? He has never competed for an NFL job at quarterback before, right? Last year wasn't like that. He was not competing for the job, right? So it's different. And whenever you're doing something new for the first time, I said this last week, you get a new job, you can't concentrate on the job because you don't know how to put your uniform on right, or you don't know where to clock in, right? And these are all things that are required for you to do the job, but they're not the job, right?
Yeah.
They're just stuff that people take for granted, right? So there are all these things that people take for granted that go into being, NFL starting quarterback. And AOC can learn those things and get better. And, it also gives this team, who are full of players who deserve it, the best opportunity to win right now.
So I have a little bit of a different theory as to why Gardner Minshew is QB1 now versus Aiden O'Connell, and it has to do with a guy named Trey Tucker. Because Gardner Minshew in the past two preseason games hit Trey Tucker deep down the field, and that was my criticism of Gardner Minshew, was the deep ball accuracy, and apparently I was wrong because he made some beautiful throws which seemed to be pretty effortless.
Yeah.
It's weird because Gardner Minshew seems to struggle when the ball is being thrown 5 yards in front of him. But when Trey Tucker's racing down the field 45 yards, and he just flicks the ball, and there it is, right in the bucket. And AOC missed him.
He missed him last week too.
Yeah. So I know that Antonio Pierce said he wants big playability. I know that Luke Getsy wants the big plays down the field to make his offense work.
That's a good point.
And when I seen Gardner, even though the rest of the game he didn't play very well at all, but when he hit Trey Tucker, in fact, if he had thrown it 2 yards further, Trey Tucker's in the end zone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it was about as good of a ball deep that you can get.
Yeah.
So for me, I was kind of wondering in the back of my mind, with the emergence of Trey Tucker in this offseason and this preseason that we have seen, could that have been the reason why Antonio Pierce was like, I'm going with Minshew because he's hitting my speed demon down the field?
One of my concerns at the end of last year with AOC is that he was ranked in, I think, 29th or 30th in average depth of target. So, like, how far downfield he's actually throwing the ball to a receiver before they do anything else, which is not going to get it, right? Like, it's got to.
But was that because of him, or was that because of McDaniel's dink and dunk offense?
That's what I was like, okay, maybe it's this, right? But then we come back this year, and Minshew has a higher ADOT, right? So he's locating receivers further downfield on average, right? He's also getting the ball out faster, which is not something you would intuitively think when you look at these two quarterbacks. But time to throw, Minshew is getting the ball out quicker. So that tells me something about AOC needing a little more time, not feeling totally comfortable. Something's not right, because he's a very timing-oriented quarterback, right? And so he should be the one getting the ball out faster, and he's not.
Yeah.
So I think when you look at some of the data, you're like, okay, I can see what some of the issues could be from the coaching staff, right?
So now that Minshew Mania is in town, it's official.
Yeah.
We're all going to be, growing out mustaches and mullets, I guess. Buying Vans in bulk or something.
Vans shoes.
Van shoes. Got to have your Vans.
Yeah. You need,
surfboards.
A man bag, I think.
Man bag. Dirt bikes. Got to have dirt bike. Everybody's got to have a dirt bike now. If you're a Raiders fan.
Dirt bikes are actually awesome. Can I do a 4-wheeler instead?
You can do a 3-wheeler. That's even better. That's how you get you want to get your Minshew Mania on? Go get a 3-wheeler. Those things are super deadly, and they might roll over and crush you, but you will look so 1980s doing it.
You will.
That everybody will love you.
A mullet and a tie-dye t-shirt. Neither one of these quarterbacks is a top 10 quarterback, right? They're somewhere in that middle to middle end of the quarterback hierarchy, and then they have opportunities, both of them, to do something different. This is the first time that Gardner Minshew in his career has had a team that was set up for him to succeed, where a head coach said, I believe in you, you're the starter from day one, you're the guy, and we're going to get behind you, and the team got behind him, and they were a talented team. He's never had that before, and he's already made a Pro Bowl and had a mania, right? And he's got some fans among people who I admire as quarterbacks.
Boy, he doesn't just have fans. He's got some players on that team. He's got a Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
He's got a Jacoby Myers. Mm-hmm. He's got a Michael Mayer and a Brock Bauer, which is going to be a terrible tight end tandem for any defense to put up with.
Harrison Bryant showed out too.
Harrison Bryant's looking good. And then you've got Trey Tucker, who is an emerging star.
DJ Turner.
DJ Turner is turning heads.
Yeah, him showing out right now as a receiver on offense, on top of already being a really good he would have made the team just as a special teams player.
Yeah.
But is he our fourth receiver?
There's already comments of him being Deebo Samuel-esque.
Yeah. I mean, that's what the comparison was out of school, and he's got that kind of body type. He's the type of player where you're like, every time he gets the ball in his hands now, you're like, like how many people is he going to make miss?
That's the thing. Like when you look at DJ Turner, when he catches the ball versus Christian Wilkerson.
Yeah.
it's night and day difference.
Yeah.
When
Absolutely.
Christian catches the ball, he's going down. First man there, it's a done deal. It's over with.
Yeah.
Whatever yards you picked up, it's over. When DJ touches the ball,
Not so much.
you don't know. I mean, he could take it to the house. He's picking up another 7, 10, 12, 15. Really good. And Jacoby Myers is doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Last week in the Minnesota game, I think it was Minshew threw a little quick out to Jacoby Myers. His defender was right there on him.
Yeah.
Jacoby jukes him out of his shoes and takes off running.
Yeah.
The very 1 or 2 plays later, it was to Christian Wilkerson, not the same caliber receiver.
No.
Goes straight down
Yeah.
to the ground, doesn't juke anybody. I don't even think he even tried to do a juke.
Yeah.
And then we seen that again, just with this previous game that we just watched against Cowboys is the same thing with Christian Wilkerson. So while Christian Wilkerson has improved on catching the ball, there's still not a lot after the catch, whereas DJ Turner, I think, has made a real statement for himself to be wide receiver 4.
Yeah.
Right? And I think for a minute, maybe he was even in the hunt for wide receiver 3, but then you see Trey Tucker just pull in a 40, 50-yard pass, and you're just like, yeah, that's our guy.
Yeah.
Because Trey Tucker, here's the beautiful thing about him. He's had some issues dropping the ball last year. Rookie, happens. A little bit in this camp. Second-year guy, happens. But there's one thing that is undeniable when it comes to Trey Tucker. That dude gets open with ease.
Yeah.
It's like effortless for him.
Yeah.
And then to see what he can do with this new kickoff, if they're going to actually have him returning kicks, which it looks like they may have him doing, I could easily see him taking at least 2 to the house this season.
Yeah.
So out of 17 games, receiving kicks probably 2 to 5 times per game, depending on how our defense is playing. That's a lot of opportunities for him to get past that line, and once he gets past it,
He's out.
it's good night. So it's really something that Gardner Minshew has never had in his career, and I do got to admit that if Gardner's going to have a banner year in his career, there's no better time to do it because he has offensive weapons that few teams have that many offensive weapons.
Yeah.
Like you have a superstar, then you have a mediocre, and then you have some subpar guys.
Yeah.
You don't have a superstar, a burgeoning superstar, and a possible superstar all on the same roster. Oh, and we're not even talking about the tight ends yet, right?
Yeah. I mean, Jacoby Myers is looking so good in camp. I mean, he was really good last year. He's taken it to another level, which is like a level above last year is approaching like wide receiver 1, right? So maybe we already have our successor on the team.
Very possible,
right?
And I mean, it's not even very possible. Like when it's time for Devontae to retire, move on, whatever happens with him in his contract or his career, Jacoby Myers is an absolute threat because he's like I've said before, he is the Swiss Army knife of wide receivers. And this is one of the beautiful things that I've seen come out of this offseason, this preseason, all of that, is that wide receiver room feeds off of each other.
Yeah.
And Trey Tucker's mentioned it, Jacoby's mentioned it, Devontae's loving it as kind of being the big brother to all these really talented young guys.
Yeah.
If Gardner Minshew can take advantage of that, which I'm hoping he can, my only concern with him is the inconsistency with him when it comes to the shorter passes. I don't get what the problem is. How can you hit Trey Tucker 50 yards down the field, but you can't hit a 6'4" tight end 10 yards in front of your face? I don't understand that. I hope that, now that he's QB1, he's going to be getting all the reps.
There you go.
Get that consistency.
Yeah.
And I hope that he does come out swinging and we get a fast start. We get that victory down in SoFi.
Yeah.
We get that victory, the week after, the week after, the week after, and we can be at least 3-1 in the first 4 weeks, if not 4-0.
Well, yeah. I mean, good point. AP, you can tell he's one of the coaches that breaks the season into quarters. So it's the first 4 games, the next 4. Right? He's looking at how we perform in these like 4-game segments. Right? It's an easier way to kind of make the season digestible and keep focus in the right place. I think 3-1 is something that we should be aiming for, right? As a kind of a benchmark of we're moving in the right direction. So it's because of who we're playing. I don't think the Chargers are a threat this year.
Yeah, I agree on that. They're in tear down rebuild mode.
Yeah, Harbaugh's doing his thing and berating quarterbacks and making friends because he's so snuggly. And they're gonna take some time and figure it out, be in purgatory. I think that the Broncos don't have the overall talent to
but
really
they do got your
it.
boy Bo Nix.
Listen, I like Bo Nix as a scout.
Is it too early? Is it too early to bring that up? This guy over here loved him.
This is the
Bo
problem.
Nix.
What if he plays good? It's gonna hurt. But listen, regardless of how good Bo Nix is, the infrastructure of that team is not good. They don't have a lot of impact players to make differences around him. He is a rookie. Sean Payton is probably high right now. So seriously.
I know that's the
bong
sad
rips
thing
and stuff.
But maybe he needs that because he's such a ornery guy sometimes on camera.
Yeah.
That maybe that's what calms him down or something. But do you think Bo Nix is going to start?
Yes.
For the Cowboys, even though he's third on the depth chart, or do you think it's going to be Stidham?
It's going to be Bo Nix. That depth chart means nothing. I think even Sean Payton said that. Like, the coaches have nothing to do with the depth chart early on in the season, guys. It's literally just the media department putting it together and guessing. The coaches don't even give a call in to give a reference on it. Now, after the preseason is done and the real starting lineup is official, that's the coaches, right? So that's different. Bo Nix will start. We are lucky that the team doesn't have a lot of infrastructure right now, and I don't like the coach, but that could change.
Well, I know one thing I'm not going to do. I'm not giving quarterback predictions anymore. So I don't know who the Broncos quarterback is going to be, and I'm not even going to fathom to give a guess because apparently I have no idea what I'm talking about.
2 minutes from now, they'll be like, Jared Stidham starts.
I mean, the floodgates opened the second the news came out of all the comment section on my last 2 videos of, I told you didn't know what you were talking about, Raider D. I told you so, Raider D. You owe me an apology, Raider D. And I'm like,
yeah, shout out to all aboard Raider.
I'm like, just turn off all the comments. I don't want to read the comments today.
Yeah, you and all aboard are in the same boat. He had a rough day.
He had a rough day, man. We both did. We both did because we were both on the AOC train.
Yeah.
And it's not even because we have a favorite in the race. It was just because both of us were seeing the same thing.
Yeah.
And Antonio Pierce wasn't. And at the end of the day, I'm not the head coach. Antonio Pierce is, so.
Yeah. No, I think that if you ask Antonio Pierce, who has more arm talent, he'd say AOC. Who has a higher ceiling, he'd say AOC. But then you ask, who has a better chance to win a game next Sunday? It's Gardner Minshew. And that's why he starts.
And, I mean, could that also be because maybe Antonio Pierce's contract,
maybe
he's, wanting to make sure that we have
He needs to win.
at least 9 or 10 games. We have something to build on in the future so that he can go back to Mark Davis at the end of the season, even if we don't make the playoffs. But, hey, we won 9 games. And I hope that that's not the reason, because I hope that it's we want to make the playoffs. We want to win.
He wants to win.
Yeah.
Coaches need to win. Those are two things that align, right? His wants and his needs align here, so that's fine. He does need to win. If he doesn't win, he won't have the job.
How long of tenure do you think Mark Davis will give Antonio Pierce if we don't make the playoffs this year?
It depends on how that looks. If we are a competitive team in all the games and we get eliminated from the playoffs by, in the last week or two, and it's apparent that the defense and running game is good, but we need more from the quarterback, then he keeps his job, right? If Gardner Minshew is running around saving us and we win 6 games and the defense isn't good, he's going to get fired.
Because he is a defensive coach. Defense better be good when you're a defensive coach.
Yeah, no steps backwards. There has to be progress. If it looks like it's going backwards, Mark is not really a patient guy.
Yeah.
I wonder where he gets that from.
And that's what I don't want to see. We don't need more front office turnover. We don't need coaches turnover. We don't need OC and DC turnover. We need consistency with the team. But the consistency that we've had for the past 20 years is losing.
Yeah.
That's something we've been very consistent about. We want to turn that around. We want to get back to winning form. Speaking of consistency, you guys got to go and check out my boy Raider Nation Hotspot here on YouTube and all his other social medias, because he's very consistent in posting high quality content. He's been huge supporter of me since I started this channel. So much love and respect to this man. So please, guys, go check him out. Subscribe to his channel. And if you haven't subscribed to the Raider D podcast, well, you should subscribe now, simply for feeling sorry for me that I'm getting bombarded in the comment section for being wrong for the past 4 months about AOC becoming QB1. And just have a little sympathy for your boy Raider D podcast, because it was a rough day. It's a rough day for me. So give me a sympathy subscription, will you? Yeah. Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
As much as you were wrong, I was right. I actually also called Anthony Brown Jr. not making the team, and who we would sign as his replacement, and that's Nathan Peterman. So if you want to know the truth ahead of time, your reason takes, you can come and see me. So
if you want very good analysis and analytics of what's happening in the NFL, you should subscribe to Raider Nation Hotspot. If you want to look at a beautiful face with a pristine radio voice, you should subscribe to this guy.
He is
also a little bit of humor in there,
a nice beard,
because I'm definitely not a beautiful face. However, I do want to thank my boy Raider Nation Hotspot for joining me tonight.
Thank you.
It's been so much fun. We're going to be at the game in just a couple of days, or not the game, the open practice.
It's basically a game.
Yeah, it's kind of like a preseason game against Raiders against Raiders. Gonna be a lot of fun, so guys, come and join me. If you're watching this when I post this in the morning or the day of the 20th of August, come on down, see us at the stadium, and let's show some Raider love to our boy Minshew Mania, the mustache man, the mullet man, the used car salesman you would not leave your only daughter in the same room alone with for more than 5 minutes. It is Gardner Minshew Mania, and we're going to be down there screaming it in the stadium. So let's go, Gardner. Let's get it. Let's hit them playoffs. Let's win, baby.
Good luck. I think he has an opportunity, and let's see if he grabs it. But let's support it. I think if we go out there and just show out, like, the energy is going to help. So let's do it.
And let's do this. 3, 2, 1. Raiders! Just win, baby.